Hey everybody, how's it going? As most of you know, I worked for the railroad in the signal department for Southern Pacific and Union Pacific for about 40 years. And during that 40 years, I learned a lot about the signal department and quite a bit about a couple of other crafts, how things go in maintenance of way and communications. But the one department that I really just never learned that much about was the operating department. That's the trainmen. I just didn't need to know that stuff any more than they needed to know what we know. So one of the ways that I'm asked often, well, how do you know that? How do you know this? One of the ways I know a lot of this stuff is from the timetable. This is the current Union Pacific timetable for the Los Angeles area, which includes the Mojave subdivision, and this went into effect May 10th, 2019. Now I don't have the trick equipment where I can have the camera looking and I can point at things. I don't have the ability to do that. I just don't have that equipment. So this might be a little corny, but it's the best I can do, and I hope you enjoy it. But anyhow, here we go with how a timetable works, at least a timetable from my corner of the world. All right, current Los Angeles area timetable number 6. And we will start with the explanation of characters. I'm not going to go over every single one of these, but what this is in the, you'll see as we go along, in track layouts, station names, detector types, they will have some of these characters associated with them. And if those characters are alongside that, then you know that's what it is. And you can always come back and refer to these pages. I certainly don't have and never did have these characters memorized. So if I was using a timetable, I would almost always have to go back to this page to make sure what I was looking at. These are maps of what's in this timetable. This is the entire Los Angeles area. This is everything that this timetable covers. And down here is expanded. You see this little Los Angeles vicinity. That's what's expanded down here at the bottom, and that shows the area within Los Angeles that this covers. Okay, we have arrived at the Mojave subdivision. You see the 0940 there. That is the number of the Mojave sub. If you're on the employees website, on the CAD screen, where you get your on-track safety, you can use 0940. You can type that in. It'll bring up this subdivision. Every subdivision has its own number. Let's start here with the station names. This starts at North Bakersfield, and as you move down, you're going south, or if you're an SP person, east, all the way to Rancho, which is at West Colton. That is entering the yard at West Colton. Then you move over here, and these will give you the control point numbers. These are based on mileposts, but as we're going to learn here in a minute, control points are rarely at exact mileposts, but they're identified by the closest milepost there too. And you see this SP, you have your CP up here, SP here, that is Control Point Southern Pacific. If you were on an old Western Pacific line, it would be CP, WP, and if you were on just an original UP line, it would just be CP, whatever. And the reason they do that is because there are stations on other lines and other places with similar names. You have Cliff here, and there's also a West Cliff, and I believe that is in Colorado. And I don't know if that is a UP thing or if that was an old DRGW. I don't know. I really don't. But that's just one that I remember. If you move over here, this gives you the exact milepost. CPSP 311 is actually at milepost 310.8. And you just move down here, and it gives you the exact milepost of each station. When you get down here to sidings, then you have say at Cliff, North Cliff is CPSP 342, South Cliff is CPSP 344, and on and on and on and on and on. This is your track layout. This tells you what's there. You can see you have double track here, It gives you the track layout. You got double track. You have crossovers between main tracks. This here, right here, is where the single one that goes off there is where the button willow branch goes off. This double track right here is where the BNSF splits. This is the Kern Junction interlocking. And as you move down, you can see that double track ends here at Bena. Then you have your sidings. Back on the double track. Mojave, that's where the BNSF leaves and goes off to Barstow, etc., etc., etc. This tells you the rule that governs this area, or in sometimes a specific control point. 9.14.2, this is automatic block. Then once you pass Sandcut, you're in CTC with two main tracks, etc. You just keep following that down and it gives you, and this is all CTC, and the only difference is some places is single track, some places is double track. Here you have anything, you remember we talked about at the beginning, all the different symbols, and you can pause that and see what all those different symbols mean, but this will tell you what's there. Your X is a crossover between main tracks with dual control switches. The exclamation point is siding with an entering signal that can give an aspect better than lunar, and on down. And you get over here in this main track authority. This tells you kind of the same information this gives you, but just a little more in detail. What can be done and what can't be done at specific locations. And then here is the maximum speed table. This is where people have said, oh, those trains are going faster than 23 miles an hour. Well, they're not supposed to be going faster than 23 miles an hour. And that is, even if there's an Amtrak or a officer special and officer special, they would still have to run 23 miles an hour between milepost 335.4, which is Caliente, and you can move over here, 335.4, CPSP 335. And from there to milepost 359.5, which is 1 mile, exactly 1 mile north or west of the Tehachapi crossover. The speed limit for passenger and freight on any track is 23 miles per hour. This tells you the maximum speed on the Mojave subdivision is 70 miles an hour for passenger and freight. They can't go faster than that for any reason. And then it breaks down in here. You have different speed limits on double track. One track might have one speed limit northbound and a different speed limit southbound. And that will tell you what all of that is. Okay, on this page here, we have some special instructions. That SI is special instructions. These are items that would be laid out by rule in the special system instructions. And it gives you, in this particular case, other speed restrictions. And this does not include temporary speed restrictions. Say if welders are working on a frog and they've done something that needs to have a slow order over it for a little while. That's not what these are permanent speed restrictions. And this tells you speed restrictions through sidings and turnouts, in the different types of turnouts, miscellaneous speed restrictions just for different tracks, different places. These are mostly branch lines here, the Button Willow and the Wise and Lone Pine Sub, and some of the turnouts for that. And here, you remember at the beginning I talked about characters. This is the location of all the defect detectors on the Mojave sub. It has the milepost and what type of detector it is, the percent sign, or Dragon equipment detectors. I don't remember what all the other ones are right off the bat, but you can check this out, look for yourself, and then go back to the rewind it back up to the special characters if you like. And then these are just more rules governing different areas of the subdivision. I'm not going to go through all of them, It gets pretty detailed about the way. I'll read one here about conjunction. Conjunction is the interlocking where the BNSF and the UP join in Bakersfield. Rule 9.13.1, if train or engine employees are required to operate the interlocking switch at current junction, they must first receive permission from the UPRR train dispatcher. Now, UP only took current junction over a few years ago. I was still working. I think it was in 2017, but that was taken care of by Santa Fe and BNSF up to that point. Anyway, in addition, employees must also be governed by instructions posted in the toolbox located at the signal house at current junction. But that's just kind of an example of what kind of things are in here. It said it gets pretty detailed. More of the same kind of stuff over here. There are no FRA accepted tracks on the Mojave sub. Accepted tracks or tracks that the FRA doesn't have any jurisdiction over, and there are none of those here. These are some of the business tracks. These are tracks where industries are that are served, industrial leads, etc. This gives you a tons per operative brake. That's something I may get into that in another video. We talk about how trains are put together, but it gives you the maximum speeds of these trains based on their tons per operative brake. Pretty much the same thing here. This is tons, gives you the tons per operative brake and tons per dynamic brake per axle, and gives you the restrictions, the speed restrictions based on that information. Train makeup restrictions. Use system special instructions item 5 for train makeup restrictions except as shown below. BNSF trains will be governed by BNSF train makeup restrictions instead of UPR train makeup restrictions. Union Pacific tons per powered axle requirements satisfy BNSF horsepower per ton requirements. Trains operating on Metrolink trackage between Harold and Vincent are governed by UPR system train makeup rules. And some more miscellaneous instructions, a lot of information, and that's why they have this. The trainmen are the ones who really need to know this information well, and there's really no way they could memorize all of this stuff. They can memorize some of it, but it could change at any time. If it's changed from the special system instructions, that comes out in a new general order that will supersede the old rule. It can become very confusing. Okay, this page is the track profiles. This gives you the mileposts going this way, starting at Bakersfield down to Oban down to Bench. So this is the Tehachapi Pass, the track profile, and this is the track profile of the Cajon Pass. You've got the valley down here, the San Joaquin Valley, then over here you have the high desert, the climbs, and then the descents, and you can get an idea of, here's the elevations across the top, so you get an idea of where these tracks go. It doesn't show you the track layout, the curves and curlicues, that'd take 50 pages, but it does give you an idea of what the climbs and descents look like. And down here you have the ruling grades. I didn't know what ruling grades were. I'd heard the term tossed around, but it is the numbers that trainmen use. You have the plus 156, that's for going uphill, and the minus 2.23 for going downhill. And that is how trainmen figure out if they have the right power, how long it's going to take them to get somewhere. There's all kinds of different things they can use that for. And that doesn't mean that 2.23 is not the steepest place on the Tehachapi. It's 2.9 somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly. And as you can see on the Cajon Pass, the ruling grades are exactly the same. This page here shows the UP system in every timetable area. Every color is a different timetable area, and there are all of the areas, and every one of those timetables would have its particular subdivisions listed inside that timetable. These are just the areas, not the subs. And then down here, table of train speeds, and this essentially tells you how long it takes you to go a certain distance at a certain speed, how many minutes per mile, seconds per mile. It gets down to that time. And this is another thing that trainmen use to determine how long it's going to take them to get somewhere. Here I have the current timetable and system special instructions for Metrolink in Southern California, which is the commuter rail, and where Union Pacific, its special system instructions is an entire another book. It's a big old thick thing. And as far as the special system instructions goes, I'll see how this video does, and if it gets a good response, I'll do a piece on the special system instructions, which has it gets a lot more detailed, how trains are put together and the formulas they use to do that. But right now I'm just going to concentrate on the timetables, and these first couple of pages for Metrolink's timetable has a little bit more information in it than the Union Pacific. They have a lot more radio channels that they use in this area than does Union Pacific. And look at this map. You can pause this, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It is a very detailed map of the lines. Up here is the Valley Sub, which is the piece that I'll show here because that's the only piece with which I'm familiar, which is where it comes up out of out of Los Angeles, San Fernando, up the Soledad Canyon and into Lancaster. And down here is the San Diego area. Oh my goodness gracious, look at all those stations. Something I found kind of interesting about this one is making sure that you have the proper permission and authorization to make any changes to anything that affects the operation of the road, changes to a grade crossing. In here it's something that makes it a little wider. A wider crossing will change a wider road, could change the island circuit, the distance of the island circuits, preemption, it could affect things, changes at diamonds, changes to signs. But I like the little before you change, like they're on Facebook or something. And you also see here that they have an explanation of characters, but it is not nearly as extensive as Union Pacific's explanation of characters. All right, we have arrived at the Valley Sub. And I said the Valley Sub was the only one I'm familiar with because it covers the area from LA to Lancaster, but it also covers these areas here. And while I know where a lot of these places are, I'm not familiar with the railroad through there because I never worked down there. As I've said in other videos, that was the Los Angeles division and during Southern Pacific's days, and we weren't allowed to work off of the San Joaquin division. So that was all LA stuff. That was all their place. But if you drive through, you could say you're driving down I-5, and you'll see a lot of these little cities. You'll see the exits to them or exits to streets with these names. This is all in the San Fernando Valley area here. And then this is from San Fernando up to Lancaster. And you can see that while they don't use colors in this the way they do in the Union Pacific timetable, it's laid out essentially the same way. You have your track layout here. Metrolink doesn't use mileposts. As you saw with Union Pacific, you'd have CP, SP 311, Bakersfield, but this, and then over here would have the exact milepost. They just use the name here, no milepost. And then over here they show the exact milepost. Here they have the method of operation, which is CTC, 2 main tracks, and it also has PTC. And the rule that governs the operation on all this track. You have Santa Clarita down here, Magic Mountain, and this is that area that goes up through Soledad Canyon up to Lancaster. Over here you have the maximum authorized speed for trains, and this is between Taylor. Taylor is just across I-5 and across the LA River from Dodger Stadium, and that's where this part of that sub starts and moves. And this is Union Pacific's is north-south. Metrolink is east-west. West is the same as north. But anyway, you can see all the speed limits, and since they have a lot more stations, they have to list a lot more speed limits. And as it is with all railroads, you have a passenger speed limit and a freight speed limit. Obviously, you can see here 79 and 50. They're significantly different. And here you see that anything that has a hashtag by it refer to Special System Section S for equipment and wind restrictions. Railroads do have wind restrictions. If the wind is blowing too hard, especially with these light Metrolink trains, I'm sure they don't want the trains traveling in high wind conditions. Freight railroads do the same thing. They try to keep their trains. They will actually stop trains on Union Pacific while they're still going east and west, compass east and west through Cameron Canyon sometime. When they get the wind really howling down through Mojave, they don't want the trains traveling through a crosswind, because sometimes those gusts down there are in the 100-mile-an-hour range, and they will blow a rail car right over on its side. Other maximum speeds. This is laid out almost exactly the same way that Union Pacific's was. Other instructions. Here, water above rail. I thought that was looking through this, and here again, this stuff's all down in the San Fernando Valley and works its way up to the Newhall Tunnel, which is, I don't know exactly. I believe the tunnel is about 7,000 feet long. Correct me if I'm wrong, or I'll actually look it up and put it in the text here. But a lot of water can get in places, and most of these are low-lying places like this. And then starting at the tunnel, and there are steep cuts down to the tunnel, and other places where there are steep cuts coming out of the tunnel. And those places tend to get high water. Santa Clarita River bridge crossings that have high water detectors. Something that I found interesting, this is on the orange sub. I didn't see it anywhere on the Valley sub, but I may just have overlooked it, is this little thing here. Bidirectional flashing X crossing confirmation signals are located at each crossing. When orange flashing X confirmation signals are flashing, train or engine must not sound whistle signal G-Core 5.8.2 unless necessary to warn persons on or near track, yada yada. But yeah, orange flashing X signifies a no horn zone. They don't have that down here. BNSF is a no horn zone through downtown Bakersfield, and there are no flashing anything on those. No X's anyway. It just says no horn zone and gives you the number of crossings that there are in that no horn zone. Okay, you can see here that the Metrolink uses track profiles, just like Union Pacific does. And I'm going to assume that all the railroads are essentially the same. I don't see why they would be much different. If you work for a railroad, for another railroad, and your timetables are significantly different than this, or even a little bit different, let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested to know. But again, they're laid out pretty much like UP's track profiles, with station names, elevations along the bottom rather than the top, and the mileposts along the side here. They don't have specific ruling grades on here. You can just see that it says within 5 miles designated segment, and you would use the grade within that segment based on this for the operating rules that come along with that. And then over here you have the track layout again. Okay, I'd like to touch on one more thing before I let all of you go. When timetables were first created, they were exactly that. They were timetables. They told you when specific trains were going to arrive and depart, specific stations, and in what direction and what time. And this is the timetable, number 169, from January 23rd, 1949. As you can see, they have train numbers and the train designation. The 58 was the Owl, 52 was the San Joaquin Daylight. These were all eastward trains. And it tells you over here where they were going to arrive and what time they were going to arrive. And just like the Metrolink trains, this one part here would go from Burbank all the way up to Mojave. And here was the westward timetable. It also gave you the class of the trains: first class trains, second and third. Third class trains are always freight, and the first class trains are always passenger, as you can see. Second class VMW, I am not even sure what that is, but if you do, let me know in the comments below. And you can see how this one works opposed to this one from April 1980. This is shortly after I went to work there. The LA Division timetable for the Mojave sub. You heard me talk about the LA and San Joaquin divisions before. Those were for the signal department. Those didn't have anything to do with operating. The operating department was a much larger subdivision. But anyway, you can see on this one that there are no scheduled trains. This is the Saugus line over here. And you can see that it just gives you the information that I pointed out in the modern Union Pacific timetable. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it wasn't too awful cheesy. Best I could do. Still a lot of information there. A lot of stuff people ask me about. A lot of things you might be interested in. As I said, you can stop the video at any time and look more closely at it. There's no top secret information in there or anything. Just the very basics of what it takes for trains to figure out where they are, know where they're going, and have some of the rules that are in effect in these places. And it is good information for maintenance away guys, signal guys, to figure out exactly where you are. You're going to try to get tracking time or something. It's nice to be able to look at the timetable and say, okay, I'm right here. These are the mileposts I'm between. But anyway, here are the URLs for my PayPal and my Patreon account. If you can help out the channel that way, I'd sure appreciate it. And keep shooting me the ideas. Drop them in the comments below. Shoot me an email at motopoet59@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content. And we'll see you all later.